computer audio. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you. You have to, if you're using a computer, you can press the video button. It says like start video or something.
Yeah, where is
Bottom left corner.
There it is. Got it. What's up, brother?
Not much, man. Not much. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. How you feeling?
Pretty good. Where are you located these days?
I'm in Houston. Yeah, I'm in the H-Town.
Mm-hmm. You live in Houston, or are you just visiting in Houston?
No, I'm living here.
Okay.
Yeah, it's there's a ton of opportunity here. I mean, this is where I was before, and I just basically decided to come here and lay some roots because I was at the beach every day. I mean, as you kind of know, and I wasn't in Jupiter, Florida. There's not anything to do Monday through Friday, like in the evening, and so like now I'm just able to go to all these different events, like just different functions, black tie functions and things like that. So you'll be seeing a lot of that versus me at I wasn't at the beach at night, but during the day I was. So,
cool.
Yeah.
Was it kind of like one of those, like, what do they call it? A mini retirement?
Yeah, I always wanted to do it. I always wanted to live at the beach. And I basically was 4 miles from one of the best beaches in South Florida and enjoyed it. But then, and Monday through Friday at night, I'm 36, man. I just have that need to just kind of touch the people a little bit, be on the scene, just not crazy, not overwhelm my schedule in any kind of way, but just enough to continue to build relationships and that kind of thing. So
That's cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. So I have you on the call to talk about Bitcoin.
Okay.
We can kind of talk about whatever you think is interesting. I kind of have a whole list of questions, mostly to ask and kind of, I guess, pick your brain. I hate that phrase, but pick your brain about Bitcoin.
Okay.
But I think that being able to, I guess, take a mini retirement is inspiring in itself. Yeah. So it'd be kind of cool to talk about how you did that, how you set up things so that you could kind of just move.
Yeah.
How you were generating income while you were moving, or while you were not like based in one location. So that's kind of cool too.
Yeah.
So we'll hammer on that as well.
Yeah. And yeah, just really the three things that the three things that really stand out in terms of like Bitcoin, and I'm sure you have these questions, is just it being the approaches the three approaches that people are thinking about it. That it as a store of value, it as a actual currency to conduct sell products and services, and then lastly as a trading vehicle. Mm-hmm. And obviously there's other applications for it, but those are really the three that stand out. So just us being able to go back and forth about that kind of thing would be great.
Cool.
Yeah.
I will kick off the intro and then we'll get into it.
Okay. And I'll let you lead the way. I don't know what other, the questions that you have. So some of it depending on, like, I don't know the entire history of it and all of that. I'm more, just a objective operational.
Mm-hmm. Well, I feel like as transparent as you want to be, like there's no real bad answer. People can learn from any answer. So
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's cool. So here we go. This is the Todd Capital Millionaire Podcast. This is episode number 44. My name is Charles Oglesby, also known as Todd Millionaire on Instagram, Snapchat, and Twitter. I'm the founder and the director of the Todd Capital Investment Club. We have over 200 members. Also the founder of Todd Acquisitions, which is our crowd-funded real estate firm. We just funded and cash flowed our first property. We're looking at property number 2. Should be getting that contract and already have like a verbal agreement with the owner. So we're getting that property, learning along the way, getting better at everything we're doing. It's awesome things happening. You guys should be involved. But thank you for tuning in. You all know the purpose of this show is to share the stories of successful African-American investors and business owners so that people can hear the stories of successful examples and learn that business and investing are the true keys to financial success, generational wealth. With us today, we have Mr. Al Picket. He's a professional Forex trader. He was a professional vacationer. I guess he's back. He had his fun, but I told him before we got on the show, like, I think that what he did is truly inspiring. Like, who doesn't want to be able to live at the beach and make money while they're on the beach? Like, that's like the super dream, especially while you're young. So we're definitely going to dig into that. But this show is mostly about Bitcoin. If anybody follows me, they know that my opinion on Bitcoin isn't necessarily anti-Bitcoin. It's more so anti the value of Bitcoin. I think that it's the idea of Bitcoin and where it's kind of decentralizing money and all that good stuff is great. I'm just having a hard time understanding how you tied the value to that. Also tying the amazing returns and just how fast it's been growing. It just doesn't make sense to me. So hopefully Al can bring some sense to us. He's been in the Forex markets, but I mean, like he says, he'll trade anything. He looks at the patterns, he looks at the charts. That information is all valuable to the watchers and the listeners. So with that, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I always enjoy talking to you. And, one of the things that you are big on is also seeking out, challenging the current notion out there, and then always seeking out opinions that are different than yours, which I respect. And how do you learn a lot from, or how do you learn even more from if everybody agrees with you? And so I respect that.
When did you get involved in Bitcoin?
Funny. It's so funny. Back, I want to say, I wish I knew the exact. I know the amount. I don't know the price. It was like $600 or 600 of Bitcoin at some point. And one of my clients, he's been like a advocate, ever since. But he had me come and speak on it when it was $600 or 600 of Bitcoin, and I was basically explaining to them that all the markets have a pattern, and then what that pattern was. And then they asked me, okay, so, based on what that pattern is, what's the next move for Bitcoin? And at that point, it was in a downtrend. And sure enough, a week after that, it started to tank. And, I wasn't smart enough at that point to go all in and, just start to learn more. I really didn't start to learn more until this year. And to get get some coins this year. Just close this real quick. Sorry about that. That my start is actually like physically and actively having some coins is this year.
Mm. Cool. So for the listeners who don't know, I feel like there's so many people who are buying it, and I don't think they really know what Bitcoin is. Can you give people just a brief idea of what Bitcoin is?
Sure. Essentially, what I share with people is, I think sometimes we see, the dollar and we get caught up, the dollar, and it's the thing that we've always known. And Bitcoin is just another currency to exchange goods and services and a store of value for some people and a trading vehicle for some other people. But essentially, like, the underlying technology it's called blockchain technology, and the purpose of that is just a more secure, also transparent way and decentralized way to for people to operate from a financial perspective. Mm. So essentially, what Bitcoin is just that decentralized way to do business, right? And to buy things, to store value, and, like I said, to as a trading vehicle.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that I think that's cool. I think that if you can do away with banks, a lot of people are saying that Bitcoin could pretty much be like, what did he say? He said Bitcoin is like what email did to the postal service is what Bitcoin is doing to banks.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing about that is, like, postal service is still it exists. It's not the number one form of communication. And so it's kind of like that idea that I said, like, Tesla can be a super successful company without putting gas vehicles completely out of business.
Right.
Or you can have new technology that doesn't completely demolish old technology. Under Armour can be a great company, and there can still be Apple. So maybe it's not so much that Bitcoin is going to kill the dollar, but it'll create a viable alternative.
Yeah, and I think what happened in Zimbabwe, where the Bitcoin was, I think, 8,000 here, and there was 13,000, as the country was going through some kind of unrest, and so it was a way for people to transact around the government. And so that's that decentralization piece, which versus the government or an entity like, say, Bank of America having records of all the transaction and everything having to go through them. All of this, the blockchain technology is essentially allowing it to be global, and not all the records be transparent, but they be processed through computers all around the world, so that no one person or entity can control or gain, the transactions and what's happening.
Yeah. One thing I like about Bitcoin is it allows countries that aren't as developed as America to kind of establish a currency. I think it was like Venezuela or something where they were able to use Bitcoin because there were some issues with their currency. And so I like that. I like that, honestly, as it pertains to African-American people.
Yeah.
And I'm not really sure how you get to that point where you can use Bitcoin to kind of establish your own economy or however it works out. But I think there's some opportunity there. That's where I like Bitcoin. Again, I just don't agree with the valuation. And what's crazy about it is we get so caught up in Bitcoin that we lose sight of like the other cryptocurrencies out there.
Right.
And it's like, where's the value in those coins as well? Is there opportunity there? Is it just, what are you seeing there?
Yeah, there's a ton of, so it's and growing, 800 plus coins and growing. And so really, all right, so you have Bitcoin, and then what the true thing that's happening is the technology, the underlying technology, which is blockchain and smart contract. So that's the real value, is that, okay, well, how is this being able to store value and store valuable information on the blockchain that is basically incorruptible? That's the real value. And so how is that technology, as it pertains to other coins, how is that going to change the way people do healthcare, the way people do finance, the way people do, whatever product or service, to allow it to be more efficient and more transparent? That's like the real value. And obviously you have with some of those coins, it's just kind of the quote unquote the modern day gold rush, and where those coins really, they're not really doing anything game changing in healthcare or anything like that. They're just whatever. So you have to be careful in that regard. But there are some people out there building some real technology to solve some real, or doing real things to solve real problems with blockchain and smart contracts as the underlying technology.
Yeah, if while we're touching on stuff like that, that's one of the things that kind of concerned me. Is I was reading the article in Forbes, and they were talking about all those different ICOs, and that was when I kind of learned that you can pretty much raise money to start a business or start an idea, fund an idea using cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
And so on one hand, it's really cool, but on the other hand, it starts sounding a little bit .com bubble-ish.
Yeah.
Where you have all these different cryptocurrencies out there being created, really tied to nothing, no sales, no actual value. And then they run up super high based off of speculation. People have a bunch of money tied in. And then when they realize like there's no more shares at the dance, then it all comes tumbling down.
Right.
So it's like you have to still be an informed investor. Like if you're buying into whatever you're buying, you have to still look. And this is where I mean, this is how I invest. Like you have to look at what's there. Under Armour tanked, but you look at what's there.
The underlying value, the underlying business. Yeah.
Exactly.
And the other problem is liquidity, right? And so what you mentioned, like I've been trading Forex for quite some time. I started trading 8 years ago. And this is the piece that nobody talks about. There's two pieces. Number one is liquidity. So what happens when everybody starts clicking the sell button and there are no buyers, and it's this mad rush to the exit, and everybody's trying to go out the same exit door? Somebody's going to get trapped.
Yep.
And, that's going to be a large percentage of the general population, unfortunately, with even Bitcoin and all these other coins, especially the coins that don't have a name. Who's the buyer if it starts tanking? Then that other piece is like risk management. So, that's a piece that no one talks about. There's so much going on Facebook, social media, print, paper, et cetera, et cetera. No one is saying, no one really talks about, when do you, like, what's the exit strategy? Say Bitcoin's at 98, 99, 40 as we speak, or whatever the case. Okay, so it starts going down. When do you exit? Are you going to wait till it gets to $5,000 and hope that it comes back? And, in that case, you lost 40, 50% of your whatever you put up. So that's one of the things that is not talked about enough.
And since we're there, what are people going to like? How do you protect against the downside risk?
Yeah, so you really want to. Obviously, it's still very, very volatile. With volatility, obviously, the opportunity for crazy returns is there. I want to say July, it went down to 2,500. I had a client buy somewhere in that range, and now we're at 99, 99.40 is something as we speak. Mm-hmm. So the downside, or protecting the downside, is always knowing what your exit is going to be. So if, say, for instance, you've got 10 grand in there, and just in 10 grand in Bitcoin, if it goes down to $9,500, do you exit and wait for another opportunity to buy? And what's the process for doing that? Versus, I had 10 grand in there, now it's at 6,000. Well, you're down 40%. So you got to make that much more just to come back over, to even and provide a profit for whatever you put up. So you have to have a predetermined exit and a strategy, a real process for getting back in the market when it's the most opportune time. And then, professionals use moving averages to do that.
Nice. I think one of the things that is interesting about you is that you aren't necessarily, I might be wrong, you aren't necessarily investing in Bitcoin as much as you're trading Bitcoin.
Yeah. So I basically started to, obviously just listening to one of my clients who was way more like the guy who invited me to speak. His name's Brian Winslow. Obviously talking to him more and getting more information. And then I started trading it using some of the same software that we use for MetaTrader. Or for Forex, it's called MetaTrader. So I started using some of that to trade it and make sure that, like, see what, when can you get out? How often can you get in? When can you get out? And that kind of thing. And so now I do have some that I'm just sitting on in an account, and I have another crypto. So I have just a small amount of Bitcoin, and then I've got some a crypto called BitShares, which is kind of like Bank of America in the crypto space.
Yeah, I've heard about some people having like a hard time buying and selling.
Yeah, the time that it takes. So imagine, where we're at right now. Say it starts tanking, and the amount of orders going through starts to slow the servers down, et cetera, et cetera. People use Bittrex and Coinbase. You've seen where those are kind of the leaders in the space, right? But you've seen even where they've had problem. I've seen where people have had problem, processing their transaction, and it takes time. So that's the caveat of this new space, this new world we're in.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that was kind of interesting to me. It's like, in order to even operate in Bitcoin, you have to kind of go over to their own system. You have to go to Coinbase. You have to go to whatever the different, I guess they call them wallets are.
Right. And the brokers, the exchanges. Yeah.
And so I guess one cool thing is usually you can just hook your debit card up to it, and your debit card will just pull, and it's super quick that way.
Yeah, and there's just a more the process for getting the funds into, because for the most part you have to get the money into actually Bitcoin, and then for other currencies you can start to move it around to those other currencies. But just the process and I think that's going to get better, obviously, like going from straight from debit card to right into it, and then boom, they convert everything for you and you're up and rolling. But right now it still takes a little bit more time and knowledge, and maybe you need somebody to help you out that's already done it to really get it in a timely manner where there's an opportunity that presents itself and you want to take advantage of it. It's probably best to have somebody that that's already bought and set up an account, and then help them have them help you set it up.
Makes sense. Yeah, and there's groups out there. I'm not sure if you're familiar, but one of my friends has a whole kind of like the Tide Capital Investment Club. He did it for cryptocurrency. It's called Cryptonomics Wealth. They have like 500 people involved. It's a super cool community.
It's on Facebook?
It's actually on GroupMe. He might be on Facebook too, but it's like pretty big in GroupMe.
Okay, awesome. I'll have to check that out.
So in your opinion, what makes Bitcoin increase in value right now?
So it's three things. So, well, first of all, there's only, these are the alleged facts, right? So it's only 21 million Bitcoins being produced. You can buy Bitcoins out to the eighth decimal point. So, I mean, that's a lot, right? So that allows somebody to not buy at 9,800 a share or whatever. I use share as lightly. So you could take $500 and you can have $500 worth of Bitcoin, and it's not like where you have to, spend 10 grand, right? So that's helpful. So the things that's driving it right now, obviously, is from a technical perspective, a trend is a trend is a trend. What's in motion generally stays in motion. Higher always becomes higher, or has the probability to become higher. But also that scarcity, that it's only going to be 21 million produced. And so people are looking at that from the perspective of it's going to be a store of value. So you got the people who are buying because, man, it's going to be a store of value. They're holding it like it's a physical, gold medallion, right? And then you have the people who are using it as a trading vehicle. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're back. You're back.
Okay, internet connection. So, and then you have the store value, just the trading back and forth, and then you have products and services, right? So people who are buying products and services. So all those three things combined, and more hype getting behind it, I think that's driving it up. Just from a pure objective technical perspective, the way that I look at things is just the price.
Yeah.
When it's in an uptrend, it's doing that thing.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting place where we are when we talk about bubbles. And there are phases that markets move in, and I think we're in that phase before we get a big blow off. Mm-hmm. But I could be wrong.
Yeah, for me, I started getting kind of interested in Bitcoin, I think probably around the time that you were talking about it, like $600 a coin, I guess you call it. And I was watching it. And then they were talking about people using Bitcoin to do all these cool things, like actually purchasing things with Bitcoin. I think you put that you were accepting Bitcoin.
Right.
So when I saw that, it made sense. I was like, okay, if people are using Bitcoin, there's utility, as they call it. If there's utility, then there's value. And then at that point in time, it crashed. And then I was like, well, the party's up for Bitcoin. And so for me, I'm kind of anticipating the same thing to happen. I don't know when it's going to happen.
Right.
But it might. I guess my theory is I can chase the hype, or I can just kind of stay consistent with what I'm doing. So it's I can just stay focused on real estate. And in 3 years, people who made a bunch of money in Bitcoin can come invest in real estate with me.
That's so true. That's so true. That's so true. Yeah, you're absolutely right. So there's companies like the thing that kind of gives you that, number one, the technology of blockchain and smart contracts, that's going to be around. Bitcoin is the front runner in terms of cryptocurrencies. That can always change. We've seen that with, different retail stores. You have Blockbuster, and then comes, Netflix and Redbox, et cetera, et cetera. So the front runner doesn't necessarily always have to stay the front runner. But the good thing is that when you start to see companies like Overstock, or you start to see, food chains like Subway, and they accept Bitcoin, that's a positive thing. And I think the most the companies that are most savvy with technology are going to be the ones that accept, cryptocurrency payments first.
Yep.
And then the majority of the world's not there yet, right? And so as that happens, we'll have more adoption. That should be interesting. Cool. But people there's gonna be some pain before all of that, for sure.
Yeah. So what's your opinion on why Bitcoin has increased in value so fast?
So there's I wish I could. So there's the stealth phase. So there's a couple of phases. There's the stealth phase of a trend. There's an institutional phase. There's a public phase. And then there's a mania phase. And so as it moves through, so that's the price, if you look at any financial instrument, I don't care whether it's stocks, currencies, commodities, whatever, they all move through these phases. And so the more, right now we're in the public phase where the public is knowing about it. It's in it's being on print, like the oldest form of letting people know. It's in print. I've got a newspaper right here that I picked up, and it's just there on the front. They're talking about it, et cetera, et cetera. You have the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, except now doing futures.
Wow.
So we're in that, next to that, after the public phase, there's the mania phase where it's just ridiculous. Maybe that's $13,000, $14,000. I mean, 14,000 a Bitcoin. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But that's the reason it's increased so fast, is because it's now hitting those two phases of awareness that more people are hopping on the train.
It's good. It's a good answer, man. I like that. So you went to a Bitcoin event recently. It looked like a Bitcoin kind of like meetup.
Yeah, it was interesting.
What was the talk like there? Like, what's the outlook on Bitcoin there?
It was a lot of interesting people. This was the largest one I've ever been to. Probably was 60 plus people in that room. You had a lot of people that were trading Bitcoin. I met some people that's all they did was trade Bitcoin professionally, right? In and out. I met people who built bots to trade it, so automatically trade Bitcoin, which is interesting. There were some people who were more on the developing, the software and things like that. And then there were miners, so people who have computers that process the transactions and verify, and kind of build a consensus for those transactions and record those transactions. That's all they do is run their computers, and they get paid Bitcoin for processing those transactions if they get them. And so that was really that full of that room, that excitement, and that people doing that thing.
Yeah. So it seems like a lot of optimism there.
A lot of optimism. It was one person in there that was more, I won't even call him pessimistic. He was just more like, what's going on here, right? Like, what's feel like it's a shoe about to drop. And one person that I met that was like that. And, whereas some people were, more put off by his questions, I was kind of just like, this is the person that you really want to have a conversation with, because he's going to make you think different and make you ask questions that you wouldn't have asked otherwise, because you're so enthusiastic. And I think you talked about it before, like irrational exuberance. Mm-hmm. We're in that phase of irrational exuberance.
Yeah. It's like every time, for people who don't know, basically irrational exuberance is the idea that the news of price increases drives more people to buy it.
Right.
And it's like every time I get an email from Boyce Watkins, who's where I'm going next, it's like that. It says like, Bitcoin is here. You need to buy some more. And it's like, bro, like I've been watching Boyce Watkins for a while, and that's why I was kind of interested in what his opinion was. But I mean, what do you think now that you have these credible people, quote credible? I mean, as credible as they are, I don't really know, but like Boyce Watkins or like rappers out there endorsing Bitcoins. It seems like it's becoming more mainstream. It seems like it's becoming more endorsed.
Yeah.
Do you think that validates Bitcoin? Do you think that just is still kind of speculative? Like everybody's just guessing. They think what's going to happen. Yeah.
So my take is this. So I do think that we're in a very interesting phase. Like I said, it's that public mania. Everybody's talking about it. When your Uber driver starts saying, "Do you have some Bitcoin?" That's telling. I remember that happening in the mortgage business. When people knew how much money, like just the regular Joe on the street knew exactly how much money we were making, just in the mortgage business. I knew that. I was like, oh, what can be good about that? Mm-hmm. And so when the public starts to get a hold of that information, not that it's a bad thing, but how much more is left.
Yeah.
So my take is two things are going to happen. Like the people who don't know risk management, they're going to get hurt very badly. So like the people who are getting in now who don't have predetermined exits, et cetera, I could be wrong, right? It could run up to 18,000. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But the trend is up until it's down. And then the second group is the smarter group, I'll say, that is going to wait until there's panic. And they're going to get that, maybe it goes from where it is now to, I don't know, whatever the number is.
Mm-hmm.
They'll just buy at lower prices. And you'll have the hedge funds now, and you'll have other funds like professionals that'll use those kind of moving averages to know when they should be getting in.
Yeah, whenever professionals like the Jamie Dimons or I think the guy from BlackRock kind of comment on Bitcoin, I always take it with a grain of salt. Like, they have a vested interest in keeping the status quo. They're billionaires. They have these companies that do very well. They maintain your money. And so if Bitcoin becomes too popular, people are going to start pulling their money out of the banks to put it into Bitcoin.
Right.
So it's like I hear them talking and I listen, and it's cool because they agree with what I'm saying, but I still can't really cite them as a credible source because they're biased.
Yeah.
And so that's why, Boyce Watkins doesn't really have a horse in this race. Nipsey, he's a rapper. And so it's like you have to kind of, I guess, gauge the credibility of who you're talking to. So
yeah, I mean, it's exciting that they're having a conversation, right? And they're building, some consensus around it, and people are talking about it. I think that's exciting. I think that's great. It just, calls the question, like, what inning are we in to reset the game? And where should you be? Where should you be getting in at, right? And you really want to get in when the cash is sitting in the corner waiting for you to go and pick it up, not when it's running away from you.
Yep. Yeah, that's one thing I will say. It's very cool to see like young kids or like people who you would never even expect to be investing, to be like not only investing in Bitcoin, but pretty advanced because the skills are transferable.
Right.
So it's like if you can make money in Bitcoin, then you're learning how to look at market cap, you're learning how to look at the trends, you're learning how to look at valuations or whatever to determine if it's a good investment. You can take those same Bitcoin skills and apply them to real estate or apply them to stocks or apply them to Forex. Kind of like what you do is like you look at the chart, you determine if it's a good investment. So I think that's one of the coolest thing about it. It's like if it does well, fantastic. If not, people still got these huge skills. And I think that is alone worth it. Just getting people interested in investing. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that exposure.
So, man, I have some questions that I kind of want to just fire off.
Okay.
But some of them are kind of duplicative. So let me think. What do you think is going to happen when the futures go live and Wall Street gets involved?
So they have Wall Street is going to be doing cash settlements, right? So, and on the futures exchange, it's going to be cash settlement. So where there's a trend, like there's not going to be an exchange of Bitcoins. It's just going to be, the future price, right? And so it's just going to be cash settlements. So I don't think that that's really going to have a huge impact in terms of the price going one way or the other, or them being able to, one person that has a chunk of money being able to manipulate it one way or the other. Because there's always going to be one person on the other side of the transaction, and they're doing cash settlement. So nobody's taking physical delivery of actual Bitcoins on the futures exchange. So I think that's going to be fine.
Interesting. Do you think that the speculative value surpasses the actual value of Bitcoin currently?
Wow. That's a two-part question. I'm an objective, price-oriented guy. So the only thing that I understand about, that there being a limited supply, right? It's 21 million. Okay. So if all 21 million are gone, if there are 300 million people in a country, or you look at other countries, you had 1 billion over there, and if it's only 21 million, that price can go ridiculous because there's no more creation of it. So I understand that aspect of it, and that's exciting, and I think a lot of people are buying in that way.
Yep.
But in terms of like right now where we are, these are not levels that I am personally, from a rules perspective, from an objective perspective, this is not a level that I'm buying at, right? That I'm interested in risking any more capital than I already have in the market.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that statement. And I'm kind of glad you brought up scarcity because that's where I was going. And my question is, they created this scarcity of 21 million Bitcoins, but how does that speak to the fact that it's supposed to be kind of like a cash alternative?
That's a very good point.
Because what confuses me is like, there's more than $21 bills in America. And so it's like, if you don't have access to a Bitcoin, you don't have access to money. It's like its scarcity kind of defeats its purpose.
Yeah. Yeah. And that may be like deeper on a technical level, you know, the Satoshi, the founder or whatever, that having that 8 decimal point as like being able to buy all the way down to the 8th decimal point, maybe that solves that issue in some technical way. I just don't know how they're thinking about that. But that's a very good point.
I can see that being the solution. I think I just have one last question.
Okay.
Question is, when I think about Bitcoin, these are the terms that come up: irrational exuberance, castles in the sky, quick riches, easy money. What do you think?
Ooh. I think blockchain. I think huge opportunity. I think, but there's going to be pain. Like, I don't know if you're looking at just words, but I think a huger opportunity will be presented after there's a lot of pain.
Yeah.
And so those are kind of my like life-changing technology in terms of the way we live. But those other two things are important.
I think at this point, we have a few more minutes. We'll transition into how you were able to retire temporarily while still making money. Can you kind of walk us through like the how-tos of that?
Yeah, I mean, so obviously I've been trading 8 years and I've done extremely well with that. It wasn't easy in the beginning. There's a lot of learning to do, and then I started coaching people roughly 4 years ago. And so for me, the key to everybody wants to. I always wanted to anyway. I wanted to be able to go to the beach, live at the beach, and just work from my laptop. Ever since I read the 4-Hour Work Week, years and years ago, probably 10, 11 years ago. And so I was just able to accomplish that by like getting extremely light. And what I mean by that is not having a lot of attachments, not having debt. So I don't have a car note. I don't really have credit cards. The ones that I have $9, $10 balances, and that's just for the credit to continue to be maintained. Mm-hmm. So I don't have wild expenses that I have to maintain, which allows me to be flexible and agile based on what I want to do. So if I decided I want to go to Bali, or in this case, I was in Florida. I decided, hey, I'm going to go to Florida. Everything's paid off, and I don't have a lot of possessions. The more possessions you have, like just stuff, the less agile you are. And so if you can put stuff in a storage or put stuff, wherever and go, then you can go in for 6 months, 10 months, or whatever the case. I mean, people do this all the time they have businesses, obviously, but the snowbirds come from Canada and they come from the East Coast and they go to Florida for 5 or 6 months and then they go back, after the season. So it's just really strategizing and saying, what do I really want and what am I willing to give up to accomplish that thing? And for me, it was just really, really staying light. Obviously maximizing my income through trading and not having a lot of expenses. And also, obviously I coach other people. I teach other people how to trade and et cetera. And so that's it. Those are my only 2 sources. So I was just able to use that and that's all I've done.
Yeah. It's funny because I think that's one of my goals. And I guess it's rooted in the 4-Hour Work Week, is being able to effectively run your business from your laptop. And if you can run your business from a laptop,
that's it.
You can work anywhere. And so like my goal is to get to the point where I've scaled my business, the laptop iPhone business, so I can live in a low cost of living state.
Right.
because California is just retarded. So it's like, not only is the real estate expensive, the commuting is expensive, the wear and tear in your vehicle is expensive, the entertainment's expensive.
Yeah.
So it's like, if you can make California money, or if you can make good money, yet you live in a low cost of living state, you pretty much, it's like it's a gap. It's like your income's here, but it's like your lifestyle's not here anymore.
Exactly. And
I think that kind of speaks to your situation as well. And it's like, you have to get rid of those expenses, especially if you're trying to really liberate yourself. It's like, you don't need the freshest, flyest car. I mean, maybe you do, but if you want to be liberated, like, you got to make some choices. You got to like, do you want to be free, or do you want to look good?
Yeah.
Or do you want to be stunting on everybody?
Unfortunately, we live in the IG era where people like to stunt, and that's a preference. But for me, my stunting is my freedom, and the other side of that is letting when real estate prices are, in my opinion, respectable enough for me to do something. When there's an opportunity that presents itself, then I'll, get back into that territory and buy assets that pay for the other stuff if I want those things. But, just using my cash on cash, I just like to stay free and light, man.
That's cool.
Free and light.
So is there anything else that you want to add that I haven't asked you about?
Well, I would just say, like, the thing that I want to leave the followers with, or the viewers with, is that as you buy, no matter whether it's Bitcoin, no matter whether it's stocks, currencies, commodities, just know about risk management. Like, risking $1 to make $4, risking $1 to make $5, $1 to make $6, even $1 to make $2. But know what your exit plan is, instead of just, hey, I'm gonna wait till it. I can give you an example. Remember when Snapchat IPO?
Yes.
And it was like $25, $26, and everybody was on Facebook, and they was like, I'm buying, and I bought this, and I bought that. I've never heard from those people anymore, and they said $13 a share.
Yeah.
And so those people, they're down 50%. So if you invested 10 grand, you got 5 grand. Yeah. Whereas the professional knows that, hey, if I invested 10 at 26, and I'm going to exit once it gets to 9,500. If it goes to 9,500, I'm out, and I'll get in at another point, versus I'm down 50%. That's not cool. So that's the one thing I would leave people.
Interesting. Where can people find more about you?
So I'm at Mr Al Picket, MrAlPickett on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And my website is alpicket.com.
And the black print can be found where?
The black print is at alpicket.com. Essentially, I wrote a book about this journey, a very short, instructional, and actionable book that comes with coaching. And so that's at alpicket.com. And also I can be reached, obviously on Instagram via that Mr. Al Picket handle.
Nice. This is episode 44. My name is Charles Oglesby, also known as Top Millionaire. We're doing great things, talking to great people, exposing people to the knowledge, the success that exists. If it's been done by somebody who looks like you, then it can be done by you. If you want to join us on any of our investment clubs, you can email us at info@capitaltalk.com. We're doing stocks, we're doing real estate, and we're looking to get into venture capital right now. So that's going to be pretty cool. We're looking to work with and partner with HBCUs, different professional athletes, different entertainers to fund your ideas. So we'll have more information for that soon. This is Charles Oglesby signing off.